I feel like this is doing a good job. I'm like, I don't really care about your feelings. Like, no offense. We're not in a relationship like that. I don't really have to care about that. What I do care about though is the numbers. And it's like, if you don't run your business by the numbers, you don't run a business. Yeah, yep. You're a hobby.
On today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talked to Derek from Phat Scooters. Talk about how they're selling scooters to celebrities and athletes and how they're pivoting during COVID-19. Let's dive right in. Derek, thank you for joining on an episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. I'm excited for this because, looking at your LinkedIn, you've done a lot on startups, Phat Scooters. It's there's the buzz is just, growing. There's more and more people that I know that have heard about you guys and love the brand. So I'm excited to kind of just hear more about your past and the experience that you have helping grow other brands and how that's led you to Phat Scooters. Absolutely.
Well, it's really thanks for having me. It's great that you're right down the street, so it makes it really easy.
Yep.
Phat Scooters is really interesting. It's a brand that I think from its inception, it had some aspect of, I don't know if I want to say virality. It was a little bit viral at its beginning. But it went through all the same stages that every other, startup has ever gone through. We've struggled with cash. We've struggled with people. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, well, will we make it to the end of the day? It's like everybody else is like waiting for 5 o'clock to go have a drink. I'm like, will we survive? Will the bank account be so depleted by the end of the day that it's all gone? And, it's like people think you can be an overnight success. I've never met a single person in my life that was an overnight success.
Every overnight success story is a 10-year story.
Exactly. It is about the tipping point when it eventually goes from rain to snow, right? There's this tiny little thing that changes that somehow flips you from one to the next. And that's a hard moment because you have to be able to like we just talked about, you got to grind.
Yep.
And that grind, if you stop 1 inch short of it, it never happens.
Yeah.
So you've just got to push to that point where eventually it takes off. And it's not easy to do. I've got a background in doing this. I've got, at one point I counted 152 companies throughout my career that I've either consulted for, been on the board of, helped start. I have had hugely successful companies that ended up in NASDAQ exits.
Wow.
I've had companies where I raised millions of dollars. 2009, a lot of people said I was the darling of Silicon Valley, raised all of this money. I was, my company won a huge prestigious award in the startup space. And a year later, I ran it into a mountain at 1,000 miles an hour and lost everybody's cash and fired everybody in the whole works, right? So, I have seen it from both ends. I know what both sides feel like. There's a lot of similarities between both. And the challenge a lot of times is you don't know where that sunk cost is, right? So it's like, do I keep grinding? Do I keep going to a point? Do I keep going on? Or is there eventually a point where you have to say, enough is enough, it's done.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's really hard for entrepreneurs to do. I've seen guys work on software to the point it's like, well, now there's 9 competitors, and they're still like, but I'm going to get it out in September. And I'm like, of what year? Because we just keep going on and on. Yeah. So, but it is really tricky. And that's why I think one of the most important things for me is just throughout my entire career, I've always sought out mentors and advisors. I'm not the guy I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Never. Maybe right here. No, I'm just, I'm just kidding. Yes. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But I've always sought out the guys that were smarter than me.
Yeah.
And I've always said to them, look, man, let me give you something. I had a board of advisors at one company. I had some really prestigious folks on there. I sent them $100 check every month, personal check from me to them. And they were like, you don't have to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but when I do, at least I know you're in the game with me, right? When you cash that check, when you have to go to the bank, this is before you could do it on your phone. I couldn't Venmo them back. I should have thought of that idea. Dang it, But I'd send them that check. They'd cash it. And they would, as they're cashing it, they're going, hey, I got to call this guy. Oh, you know what? I just had an opportunity that came up this morning. So, it's really important to surround yourself with the right people. I think probably the biggest mistakes I've made as an entrepreneur, as a startup guy, I'm trying to think if in any instance, the people that I started it with, we didn't end up hating each other and like ready to kill. It's hard because the people that you start with, most of the times aren't the people you end with.
Yeah.
And that can be tricky too. That breakup piece
And is it usually just because your guys' vision is the same whenever you guys start, but once you get to year 2, 3, 4, is it that usually the direction of where you guys want to go? Just kind of.
And I think you just grow as an individual too. I mean, I was a musician for years. I was in lots of bands. You know, it's usually a chick. I mean, it's the Ono, right? It's the Beatles thing, right? It's always like she shows up at practice and you're like, well, this is about to end because this, you know, you can see where it goes. So, I mean, sometimes it's people move, they get another job, they get a job offer. Yeah. I had a startup that failed because one of our core founders got recruited by a major, like top 25 software company in Silicon Valley to be their CTO.
Wow.
What am I going to say to him?
Yeah,
go take a $500,000 a year check versus I think I gave him $96 a week before. Like, what are you gonna do? He's got kids. I mean, at some point he's going to have to eat. You know, ramen doesn't last forever. I mean, it literally does last forever, but I mean, you can't live on that, you know, forever. So, you know, there's lots of reasons that things go bad. I think sometimes it's there's a lot of lack of communication. I think there's a lot of lack of clarity that happens. I think there's a lot of assumptions. You assume you're on the right page. You assume that this is the path that you're willing to go down. And then the reality hits and it goes bad. I've also seen lots of times, you know, family members don't make good partners a lot of times. Yeah. You know, because you're stuck with them. Like you got to go to Thanksgiving. So you can't make that strong break. So there's just lots of things that we all do. Personally, anytime I get involved in a startup anymore, all the founders' equity vests. Just the way it is. We all vest it. We might get 20. You know, if the 4 of us started something and we're like, okay, we're each taking 25%. I'm like, cool. We're each going to get half of that now, and then over the next 4 years, at the end of each year, we all sit down and we go, okay, you're a percent, you're a percent, you're a percent, you're a percent. Because if you don't, you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I've been in companies where 90% of the equity is held by dudes that we haven't seen in 3 years. Wow. And we got to call their attorney to get a signature. It's like, how does that work? So a lot of it's just that planning up front. You also have to assume that you're going to be a success. And this is sort of what we were talking about in the lobby here. You know, it's like sometimes you have to make these gambles and you have to say, you know, I have no idea if this is going to work. If it does, I can see where it could go. If it fails, you know what? I can always take my ball and go home. Yep. And, you know, we don't want to get too married to that stuff. It's hard. Like such a baby, right? But you got to be able to throw that baby out the window occasionally if you have to. Yep.
Yeah. So the mentorship, I mean, that's a huge commonality between other guests that have been on, plays a huge role in success. And I mean, what is it about the mentorship that really helps you succeed?
Yeah, I think for the most part, it is somebody that will actually tell you the truth. Your grandmother will not. She will lie to you about how cool your app is. I mean, she just will. Your friends will lie to you. Your business partners will lie to you. You will lie to yourself. Mentors, somebody that's outside that has a very limited amount of time with you is just going to shoot straight. And if they don't shoot straight with you, you don't want them as a mentor. Yeah. I mean, they need to be the one that slaps you across the face and says, listen here, dummy, this is stupid. Stop being stupid. And sometimes, I mean, I'm on an executive team right now where we occasionally will sit down with each other and be like, hey, listen, dude, knock it off. Yeah. Because this isn't cool. Yeah. And we all respect each other enough to go, oh, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, you know what? That was inappropriate. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to change. Most of the times you have to get that from an outside. I think the problem with mentors, and for instance, for me, I don't mentor anymore. I only mentor people that work for me. And the main reason is, you know, last week I had 61 appointments on my calendar. It's like, when would I find that time? You know, my wife's on vacation this week. Do you notice where I am? I am not on vacation with my wife. Yeah. Why? I had stuff going on and I'm like, babe, I'm sorry. You know, and it sucks. Like I want to be on vacation with her, but I have to take care of this. So I over the years, I've just become so careful with my time now. Like everybody knows in my office, I set 15-minute meetings. I don't set I don't do hour blocks. Hour blocks do not work. Yeah. I also use a method that I created in a couple of the books that I wrote called the block tackle handoff. So every day I put 2 blocks on my calendar. One usually is right about 9:30 and one's about 2:30. This is sacred time, cannot be interrupted. Yep. Blood or fire is the only way. Blood or fire. I mean, literally, if you knock on my door, I'm running with a fire extinguisher because I just assume that, you know, so these times are blocked off. And then every time that something comes at me during the day, I'm like, okay, do I have to tackle this now? Or can I put it in my block? Or can I hand it off to somebody else? Yeah. Right. And so I've become pretty efficient with that. You know, I'm also a big fan of executive assistants. I think the executive assistant went out of style for a long time. You don't find an executive in the 70s, 80s, or 90s that didn't have an EA.
Really?
Like, you just don't find them.
Why did that leave? Like, why did that?
I think they thought it was like I'm not sure if they thought it was too. Most executive assistants are female. I will tell you that. I, for instance, I just did an interview process, had 44 candidates. I didn't have a single male.
Wow.
Out of 44, not a single male applied to the position. I think it's a very interesting role. It's a very powerful role. It's somebody that has a really unique personality that's like, they love to help. They're very much nurturing. They're like, I want to help you. Like, I need to get you, the dad is like, oh, the kid falls over. It's like, well, he'll eventually figure out how to get out. The mom's like, oh my God, I gotta run over. So I don't know if that's why. I don't want to be sexist about it. I don't know if that's the case. I just think it was interesting in the process with our HR team. They were like, when are the dudes coming? When are the dudes coming? And they just never came. But it was a really popular position for a long time because executives valued their time. They looked at their day and they said, you know what? I'm worth $500 an hour, or I'm worth $1,000 an hour when I'm making fundraising calls. I'm worth $8 an hour when I'm taking garbage out.
Yeah.
So they prioritized their task, and they not only created a to-do list, they created a not to-do list. And they said, these are the items, if I ever get caught doing, go to my desk, grab the mace, come out, spray me. And then I'll remember, like, it's like that Pavlov's dog kind of thing, right? I mean, I gotta stay away from certain things. Yeah, I can do them. Sometimes it's great for the CEO or president to take the garbage out because there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you've got to focus your time and your energy on very specific things. So finding people that can help you do that, if that's a virtual assistant will save your life. Like, even if that's just a couple hours a week, somebody that books your calendar. How many times have I tried to book a lunch with somebody and they're like, oh, you want to go here or here? Here. Oh, I can't do it too. Can we push it? I'm like,
what day, what time?
Now that pushes my other meeting. And then I'm doing all these tasks that they have to happen. They're urgent tasks, but they aren't the best use of my time.
Yeah.
And I think that's this thing. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't cut his own grass because I'm like, wait, I could make $500 an hour. Well, I'm going to pay this guy $30 an hour because that saves me $470. I think as an entrepreneur, it's hard when you're doing all the things, but you've got to find as quickly as you can, how do you get those things out? I 2 companies in the past, I paid for out of my own salary, I paid for my EA.
Really?
I was like, I have a person and I just pay for them myself and they're on my staff. They don't work for the company, they work for me.
Yeah.
Because they're good enough to be able to say, I'm going to get all these things off your plate. My new EA who just started yesterday, she was like, your anniversary is on Monday. And I'm like, wait, what? She's like, your wedding anniversary. I'm like, okay, good. Mental note, got it. She's like, do you need me to do anything? I'm like, not right now, but on Monday, I will be calling you and saying, yeah, I need help now. Yeah. But it's just trying to figure out how to focus your attention on those great tasks. If you're a creator, you should be creating.
Yeah.
And every time that you're not creating is truly lost time. And time's the most valuable resource you have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have 4 hours a week to work on your startup, what if you had 6? That's 50% more time. Your probability of success probably doubles in that thing alone.
No, I love it. I try and get up early and work a couple hours before 8. I mean, I'm usually up working at 4:45, but did the math the other day and I'm like, okay, that's an extra 3 hours each morning. And it's like, you do that 5 days a week over 2 years. It's something like 1,700 hours. And it's like, what can you do with an extra 7? I mean, how much quicker can you grow if you have an extra 1,700 hours?
Absolutely.
And it's just identifying the value of that time and making sure it's as ROI positive as possible. But I think one thing that gets tough is to your point, it's like, well, I could do that, but it's not gonna be the most revenue driving. And even then I love what you said where I could mow the grass, but I could be making $500 an hour and all that. Like, that's my main goal is like, I can't wait till my time and like we're growing to where it doesn't make sense for me to mow my own grass, to clean our own house and all that. Like, it just doesn't make sense financially. But how do you balance the knowing when to hire?
I got the tool, man. So I call it 1% better every day. Something that I have been teaching for 15 years. And it's like, look, I can't go from here. I'm not going to win the Boston Marathon in a couple of weeks. There's just no chance. I don't even run. So it's like, there's no chance that I'm going to win the Boston Marathon. It just isn't going to happen. But if winning the Boston Marathon is my goal, the way that I have to do that is by by getting better at it each day. Like, if I don't run at all, well, let me go for a 100-yard run tomorrow. Yeah. And then the next day I have to say, I need to go for 101 yards, 102. I have to keep improving that. It's funny. People don't think that 1% is a lot, but 1% better every day is 3,800% better at the end of the year.
Wow.
If I just can take 1% of those tasks and I'm like, wait, I can get an AI calendar scheduling. I mean, there's a couple of them out there right now.
Oh yeah.
That's going to save me 5 or 10%. I could do this. I can do this. I probably should say no to more things.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest mistake, I gained 120 pounds at a startup one time.
Really?
Yeah, I was 365 pounds when I left that startup because I didn't know how to say no to anything. So it was like, oh yeah, I can do it. Oh yeah, I can do it. Oh, can you speak over here? Oh, can you go on this trip? Oh, can you talk to this guy? Oh, can you mentor me? Oh, can you do this? And I would get home at 12:30 at night and I would get up at 4:30 in the morning. And I was a vegan at the time and I just ate chocolate cake and spaghetti all day long. I was just like, just handfuls of chocolate cake and spaghetti. I'm like, it's vegan. It's vegan.
Yeah,
it's good for
healthy.
Good for me. You know, it's like big old handful of, noodles. It just didn't make any sense. So I eventually had to get really good at just saying no. And I get stuff all the time, especially now that we've got this TV show. I probably get 50 LinkedIn messages a day. I'm sort of rude. I respond to very, very few of them. One or two.
I appreciate you responding to me.
Maybe one or, but if there's an opportunity, right? If it makes sense, if I go, okay, is that something on my to-do list or my not to-do list?
Yeah.
Would you like to speak with me about insurance? No.
Yeah.
I bet you we could save you 5%. Oh, great. Wow. You can save me $2,500 a year on all my insurance.
Yeah.
Woo, I'm so excited. I'm going to have to send you 20,000 documents. I just can't do it. I don't have that time. So, and maybe at some point in the future, I will have that time. I hope not, because if I am, that means I'm stagnated.
Yeah.
I'm not growing anymore. One of the things that I hate about companies is, and I've grown into companies that have been in that $100+ million revenue category. And it's like, I love the double digit, triple digit. I want to be like that 300-400, I mean, I remember sitting in a board meeting one time and they were like, our objective for this year is 3% growth. I was like, I need to find a job. Like, this is not, like, everybody's like, don't kill yourself. The goal's only 3%. I'm like, this is just, there's no grind in there. I mean, well, at that point, all it is risk mitigation.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of consulting when I worked in sustainability years ago. And I was very fortunate, although some people looked at this as sort of an insult. I was introduced at a sustainability conference once as the only environmental sustainability consultant that has worked with 3 of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So at that time, I had contracts with Monsanto, ExxonMobil, and Walmart.
Dang.
From sustainability, right? Those are not the companies you think are like, wow, these are the. But I was like, hey, that's where I want to work at. I want to work at the place where we can get massive improvement by just changing the mindset and going, hey, wait a second, what if we did it this way? That's a great idea. Let's implement it. And it's 100,000 gallons or 10 million pounds saved versus, hey, let's work with, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, who's already like perfect. Yep. And they're like, hey, if we could just improve this by 1/8 of a percent. No, I don't want those numbers. I want the big, huge numbers. That requires a lot of betting. I mean, we talked about this TV show thing. It's like this whole TV show deal that's going down right now is so crazy because it couldn't happen at any other time than COVID. Yeah. Like, COVID was the opportunity. And we just happened, I think it was March 17th, the night that we heard the NBA canceled. Within 24 hours, we had a pilot done. We were like, there will be no entertainment for the next year. We will produce a pilot in 24 hours.
How about not wasting time?
Yeah. And everybody's like, are you crazy? And I'm like, I'm crazy. And get out of my way because, this is how you have to handle opportunities. That's why I've always been not a huge fan of business plans, right? I mean, I think you have to have a plan. Yeah. But it has to be so nimble. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Right now we're out and we're talking with a lot of investors and we're doing a lot of reorganization and we're doing all sorts of things. And I'm looking at like the pitch deck for our company. And I think I sent it out this morning. I think it was version 18 since August 1st. That's how many times the plan's changed in the last 27 days. It's just, you have to be nimble like that. Yep. You have to be able to look at the plan and you have to be able to say, Bruce, I think it was Bruce Lee once said, the purpose of a goal is not to hit it. It's just to have a direction to aim, right? Yeah. It's like, if I'm going to punch you in the face right now, I won't get the cameras. Like, I don't know exactly where I'm going to hit, but as long as I go that way, I'm going to probably make a connection. So that's something that you really have to think through, and you really have to make sure that you don't get yourself tied up in these walls of like, well, that doesn't look like an opportunity. So maybe I shouldn't do that. I'll tell you, one of the stupidest things I ever did in my life was in 2009. I had a kid call me, 2008 or 2009. He had an idea and chewed my ear off for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, this is stupid, right? And he wanted me to become really the first investor in the company. And the company was called Zimride. And the idea was that people are already driving to work. Why shouldn't they drive together? They should carpool. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, it's good for big companies. And I'm like, my mom was always like, don't get in a car with Like,
stranger.
this is not.
Yeah, you don't get in the car with strangers.
So I said no.
Yeah.
You know, and now John's company was 38 billion, I think Lyft was in the last round.
Yeah.
So I passed on Lyft.
Wow.
Because it sounded like a really dumb idea at the time. And it's still it still sort of sounds like a pretty dumb idea. But hey, right? I mean, he's got $38 billion and I don't. I'm going to say, John, if you're listening, I'm still interested in putting that cash in just at the valuation back then, right? I don't really want to do it at what it is today. But it's like you have to keep your eye open to those opportunities. You have to keep focused on what's happening, but you also have to be able to say, does that fit? Like, you constantly have to be taking the puzzle pieces and trying to put them together and go, is there any way that this works? And then give it a try, but then don't be afraid to go, you know what? That was dumb. Yeah. You know, we spent 20 grand on it. Well, that's okay, go on. Let's just move. Yeah. Because if you don't do that, you're never going to see those opportunities as they arise. Yeah. And you know, I think I'm a living testament to that. Most of my exits have not been, everybody tells you, every investor says, well, what's the exit look like? And I always tell them, I have no freaking clue because I've been in companies that went public. I've been in companies that did reverse mergers. I've been in companies where a company that was $1 million acquired a $100 million company. I've sold licenses. Every exit looks completely and totally different. So, you know, we all think it's this big check. I don't, maybe twice I've seen a check, a physical check. Sometimes it's shares. Sometimes it's profit interest. Sometimes it's paid out over 2 years. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just you clean up the debt and have those people stop calling me. I mean, it never looks like what you think it is. Yeah. And if you think it's going to look a certain way, you're going to miss 99.9% of the opportunities that come up. Yeah, because it puts your blinders on. And I mean, going back to valuing your time, it's how much time are you going to put into looking over the next 5 years? How are we going to grow? And all of a sudden COVID hits and all that time you put in this 5-year plan, it's not even there anymore. Now you got to rethink. And it's having some type of direction, but not sinking too much time into it. Because it's, to your point, you got to be nimble. I mean, absolutely. And like I said, the exit doesn't look like you think it looks, almost without exception. It just looks different. It's merged. What was it? 90% of successful, I think it's something like that, are acquired or merge. You know, I mean, I had a crazy story a few years ago as I was consulting a company here in town, and they had a vendor that for 20 years, the vendor had been great. All of a sudden it started going sideways. Yeah. And they were like, we're looking for a new vendor. And I said, well, why don't we go over to the old vendor and find out what's going on? And they're like, well, you know, they suck. Like, drive over there, sit down with the owner. I'm like, dude, what's up? 20 years was good. He's like, hey, my wife just got diagnosed with cancer. Yeah. She's going to die. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't think about anything. He's like, I don't want all these people to lose their job. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, would you like us to just take over the business? Wow. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, we'll cover your insurance for a couple of years, get you through this. We'll keep paying your salary for the next 24 months. We'll just take over the business. Cool. And he's like, cool. Literally at the table, he's like, just have your attorney call my guy. I got to go home with my wife. Yeah. I mean, that's not the exit he ever thought. No. That's not, it wasn't even a good exit, but it was the exit he needed right then. He's like, I need insurance. I need a paycheck. I need to get out from underneath the stress. And I need to spend the last couple months of my wife's life with her. We hired him as an employee after she passed, waited about 6 months. He called and was like, hey, I appreciate what you guys did. I need to get back in the game. And we're like, come on over. You're a VP of this. And, you know, and he's got a job. Not all of his employees had jobs. They all came over and worked for us. So it wasn't what he thought, but it was exactly what he needed. Yeah. No, that's really cool. One thing I love is, I mean, I struggle with saying no. To me, it's if you say yes, you figure out how to make it happen. But by saying yes to more things, there's going to be things that pop. And to me, that's where you can find success quicker. I mean, you don't miss opportunities, but then you can stretch yourself too thin. How have you learned to say no better and not dwell on maybe missing opportunities and stuff? You know what I mean? It's a great point. And a lot of times I have introduced them to somebody else. Mm-hmm. You know, I'll be like, hey, look, actually, here's something. One of the things that I was doing pre-COVID was I was running this monthly executive mixer that was called Secret Sauce. It was invite only. You couldn't find us anywhere. You had to know somebody that knows somebody to get you in the door. Yeah. On an average month, I was getting 180 people showing up for that. Wow. I mean, everybody from, you know, the executive leadership of the pro sports teams here in town, all these, and I would just say to them, hey, look, I can't help you, but go to the front door. Yeah. Here's the night it is. say Derek said, and they'll go, okay, come on in. And you're going to meet 100 people in that room that are going to help you do that.
That's cool.
And then they usually at the end of the night, they come over to me with a big smile. They're like, you remember me? And I'm like, no. And they're like, LinkedIn. I'm like, okay. And they're like, you said, come here. And I just met this dude and we're going to start a business together. And I'm like, okay, cool. So, I do tend to think that, I probably do miss a lot of opportunities, right? But I think the dedication that I have to the vision that we have is so important that I have to try to, again, that puzzle piece. I read that thing through and I go, is there any shot?
Yeah.
Great example. I had an insurance guy hit me up on LinkedIn about 3 weeks ago. Hits me up and he's like, look, starts out with, I know you're busy. Here's why you should talk to me. And I looked at it and I'm like, and he's like, and here's the customers I work with. I'm like, okay. Number one, I know who all those people are. Number two, he was really succinct. He was like, here's why you should talk to me. I sent him a text or an email and I said, I have 15 minutes. Got on the call for 15 minutes. I realized that we had some very interesting connections. I said, let me connect you with my attorney. My attorney worked with him for a little bit on some stuff. We're actually doing some business with him. 2 days ago, a guy calls me out of the blue and is like, hey, I was talking to this Brandon dude that you know. And I'm like, Brandon. So I'm looking at my Gmail. I'm like, oh yeah, Brandon. And he's like, hey, listen, I have a major brand that wants to sit down and have a talk with you about something you're involved with. Are you okay with me facilitating that introduction? And I'm like, yeah. So you do have to, it's almost like that puzzle piece thing. It's, sometimes it's just being able to say, hey, I'm not interested at this time, or handing them off to somebody else in the organization. I mean, that's why it is important to have some sort of structure. I love EAs because EAs are the best gatekeepers in the world. You send that person to an executive assistant, and that executive assistant, their number one goal is to make sure that person never gets to you. So that you have to be very convincing, to make sure that you get through where they're finally to the point where they're like, okay, I'm not going to say yes, but let me put it on the agenda to talk to them. And so I think it's creating the systems and process around it that helps.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, that's something we've been working on a ton the last, couple months. I mean, that's been the beauty of COVID. I mean, things have kind of slowed down, which allowed us some breathing time to figure out our process and where I'm spending my time and auditing that and where I should be, bringing on more people. And then as things have started ramping back up in this last month, 2 months, I mean, it's been nice to go through that and figure out the process. Cause it's like, we're laughing. The last 2 years, it's been a lot of learning, but going from, where we used to just show up and shoot commercials and no pre-production, nothing. And I was joking the other day where it's like, this is almost like too easy now. I kind of miss the fire drills, the missing the battery and all, but it's amazing how things just run so much more smoothly. And then it opens up pockets of time so you can spend time on other things.
Absolutely. So I think some of it is, and not to interrupt, but one of the things that I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but there's a story. The story is called The Bull is Dead. And it's a story that travels around Silicon Valley. It's been sort of legendary now for probably 20 years. And the story goes like this. There was this engineer, worked for a big software company. He was trying to get promoted. And every time he would get to, his annual review, they would say, look, we really love your work, but the executives they don't like communicating with you. They feel like you give too much details, you're too in the weeds. You got to try to raise the level and get more strategic. So he tried for years and just couldn't figure it out. It was like, it's just, he's an engineer. His personality is like, let me give you all the details, right? So one night, about 11 o'clock, his son had taken the family car out with some friends, supposed to be home at 11, starts raining out, phone doesn't ring, the kid's not home. Yeah. It's 11:05, 11:10, finally 11:15, the phone rings. He picks it up and it's his son and he goes, Dad, I'm okay. The bull is dead. The car's drivable. Can you please come to the police station? And he's like, son, what is this bull? And he's like, Dad, I'm okay. The bull's dead. The car's drivable. Come to the police station. Hangs up. So he jumps in the car and he's driving there and he's like, listen, he's like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. And then he realized, he's like, I do know what's going on. My son's okay. He was obviously in a car accident. The car's okay. Everything's fine. I need to go to the police. I don't know what this bull thing is, but I need to go to the police station and figure this thing out. And he said, after I got there, I got to hear all the details about the bull standing in the middle of the road and they hit it at 60 miles an hour and, the whole entire thing. And he said, I get home and I'm laying in bed that night and I'm like, the bull is dead. Like all I needed to know was the facts. Yeah. And when I communicate with executives, the punchline has to be first. And when people send me an email where the punchline is first, I almost always respond. And if I see an email that's like, see below, I'm like, no, you don't tell me what to look at.
Yeah.
But if I get an email that's like, hey, here's your competitor, I just saved them 26% on this, which equated to $4 million. That dude's probably getting a phone call.
Yeah.
So it's like, give that punchline first. So I actually have, my wife still has it someplace. It's a little like stuffed animal of a bull. Mm-hmm. She leaves it on her desk. She works for a big software company in Silicon Valley. I mean, $50-60 billion company. She has some communication with executives. Every time she sends an email to an executive, she just looks at that bull. She's like, what's the punchline? This is what's happening. This is the solution. I need approval. Yes or no. It's like, yes, no, or maybe. Circle which one. It's like being a kid. Like, do you like me? Yes or no. You just cut to the chase. I don't know all the details. Yeah. If I hired the right people, they should have the details worked out. Yep. And if they're presenting me a solution, then that's probably the right.
Yeah.
So it's just being succinct in that regard too. And I think that's what I sort of look for a lot of times when people try to communicate with me. I've also found too, I think the easiest way to communicate with potential partners, investors, all that kind of stuff is probably Twitter. Like I do more DM work on Twitter than anywhere else. I don't have the email addresses for a third of our clients. I can hit them up on Instagram or Twitter on the DMs. I slide into those DMs and they respond to it. Everybody knows Elon Musk responds to most of his DMs. Oh yeah, a lot of people say that. I was with somebody yesterday. It was like, I just heard from Elon on something. He's in the electric vehicle industry, and he's like, send him a DM. He responded back in like 15 minutes and was like, yeah, here you go, man. So I mean, you have to recognize that the forms of community. And listen, if you think about Elon Musk, I guarantee you, he has a room full of executive assistants.
Oh, I'm sure.
That make sure nothing gets to him unless the most important.
Yeah.
But he does do his own Twitter.
Wow.
Obviously, our president does his own Twitter, right? If you want to get hold of him, it's pretty easy. I mean, come on. You can go right past the Secret Service and right into the White House bedroom.
Yep.
So just finding that method of communication that works best too, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. The barrier to entry has come down so much in terms of trying to create your own opportunities. I mean, with social, like you just mentioned, I mean, before you'd never have the opportunity just to slide into someone's DMs. And now but having that communication of being direct, I mean, that's the biggest thing I'm working on, because I get too into the weeds. I love the weeds and the details and all that. But I mean, as we're trying to show the value of what we do and everything like that, it's getting to the point. And
I like videos too. I do. I actually have a person in our office. Her main job, she does a lot of other things, but her main job is every morning to find something in the office that requires a video with an executive, go seek out an executive, grab him, bring him or her down and be like, hey, look, we have this new product that we're working on.
Yeah.
Can you say a few things? And she just catches a 10-second thing. Some of those we publish, some of them we don't. I mean, I use LinkedIn a lot. I've communicated with, just because of this TV show, I've probably talked to, I bet you of the 15 brands I reached out for product placement, 10 of their CEOs responded back to me. Wow. Most of the times it was like a sentence. I'm like, hey, my company just landed a reality TV show. Here's a video.
Yeah.
And a day later, I get a message back and they're like, wow, that looks freaking cool. Why should I care? Right. I mean, it's sort of like I let them on a little bit and I'm like, I'm looking to see if maybe you want to do a collaboration on the show. And they're like, yeah, here's my cell.
Yeah. That's cool.
Okay. But you gotta, I think sometimes too, and this is probably the saying no thing. I usually am going to respond to people that offer me something. Mm-hmm. I rarely am going to respond to somebody that's wants something. They're like, hey, can you give me a bunch of money? Probably not. Yeah. But if they respond back succinctly and they're like, hey, here's the reason I'm reaching out. I'm working with these guys. I thought maybe you might be interested. Mm-hmm. Here's an example of how this works. And I'm like, okay, that's something I'll respond to. So, it's real easy to be selfish in communication, but you got to recognize that my mentor was a Dallas billionaire. And, he said that communication is a bank, mm-hmm. right? You invest into a relationship and you take things out of a relationship. But I can't go to I don't have an account at Wells Fargo. I can't roll over there and be like, hey, can I get 25 grand?
Yeah.
They're just going to throw me out. Right?
Yeah.
But I can go to Chase and do that because I'm a client.
Yeah.
And I can go in and they can look and go, well, you don't have 25 grand. I can go, can I get a personal loan? And they're like, yeah, sure you can. So I have to have a relationship. I have to be putting something in order to take something out. And that's exactly the same way, even with communicating with somebody. I have, I love doing the handwritten note thing. I think that's a big deal. I like sending gifts to people. I mean, one of my favorite stories from back East, I worked in television years ago and I found out this dude was a runner. This guy I was trying to get to, could not get to him. Went to a running store. I'm like, what's the best shoes out there? They're like, these ones. I'm like, what's the average size of a barn swallow or what? And I'm like, they're like 10 and a half. I'm like, give me a pair. And I just sent them one. And I'm like, hey man, here's the shoe. I heard these are the hot thing. I got what I thought was the average size. I have the receipt and the other one. Give me a call if you want it.
Yep.
And his assistant called me and was like, he wants to go to lunch. Yep. Like, of course he does. He wants the other shoe and he wants the receipt so he can get the right size. But I gave him something first.
Yep.
I never asked for something without offering something.
Yeah. And
I think that's an important part, particularly if you're looking for a mentor. The people that you want to be your mentor are successful people that don't have the time to be your mentor.
Makes sense.
So just respect that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I love that approach. I mean, that's the exact approach that we take when it comes to marketing. It's everyone is running ads that's buy, when it's like provide some value. And that's why that thing that we have in there, the cyclorama, it's you can make personalized content at scale, but it's hitting on that interest, find out what that person wants, communicate with them in whatever form of communication they like to communicate in, whether it's video or written word or talk, whatever that is. Sure. And then the sales will come. That conversion rate increases quite a bit whenever you have that.
And you can take that to an extreme. I don't know I can't remember the brand right now, but it's like Liquid Death. Have you seen the bottle, the canned water?
I haven't.
All their ads are like, please do not click this. Do not buy this product. This is not for you.
Really?
Oh yeah. And they make it super hard to buy it. They're like, throughout the whole thing, it's like, agree that this will probably kill you. You shouldn't buy it. It's too expensive.
That's interesting.
They're like, are intentionally like, you do not want to be a part of this. And I have been in 4 CEOs' offices in the last 6 months, and every one of them has a case of it sitting there. They're just like, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy that thing because they're telling me not to buy it. And it's so different that I'm just like, I have to buy it because, and I mean, they're ridiculous about it. One of my favorite customer service stories, just thinking about sort of crazy approaches thing. You guys probably remember Dollar Shave Club, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So when Dollar Shave Club came out, I saw the video. There were less than 10,000 views on it. So it got sent to me by a friend who worked at YouTube. And he was an old friend, and he would always be looking for viral stuff. He sent me that Gangnam Style video. It had 3,000 views.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it would be like, he would just shoot me a text and be like, dude, this thing's going up. Check it out.
Yeah.
And I would check it out and I would share it with people. And but Dollar Shave Club, I was one of the first people to sign up for it. And back then they were like, we only send it once a month. And like, you have a date and this is the only day we can send you stuff. So they missed me the first month. So I was bummed because I was like excited about it. I thought it was a cool concept. So I sent them an email, and it was him, the dude, the CEO, and he responded back. And I was like, hey man, I just want to cancel. I'm like, you guys missed me, and I need razors. So I'm out, So all he did was reply back with a YouTube link. I was like, what is this? So I clicked on it, and it was Al Green, Let's Stay Together. Just a music video.
Really?
And I just sat there watching it, and I'm like, okay. I just replied back. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll wait till next one. And he never said a single word to me.
Wow.
All he did was just send me a link to a music video. Like, it just starts out. I'm like, dun, dun, dun. I'm like, this is Al Green. Let's stay together. And I'm like, I get what you're saying.
That's awesome.
It's like, hey, look, let me just sing your love song, bro. Like, let's see if it works. And it worked. And I still have a Dollar Shave Club membership.
It's a great retention tactic. Absolutely. That's for sure.
So, you do have to get creative and you have to think outside the box. And I know everybody hates saying that, but it's true. Everybody thinks the same way. And, you got to find a way that's different. Yeah.
And you've been part of, as you mentioned, so many different businesses, some that have grown tremendously, some that have failed. What is the variable to success that you see? Is there any commonality between it? Or, is it internal communication? Is it marketing? Is it, what is the difference that makes?
I got to tell you, I think some of the companies that I've been involved with that I thought were going to be the most successful failed the most miserably.
Really?
And some of the ones like Phat Scooters, I got to tell you, when I first started working with Phat Scooters, we just recently did this series called Behind the Handlebars where we interviewed all the original employees, and pretty much every one of them said, I thought this was sort of stupid. I needed work. Like, I knew these guys, so I was like, I'll jump in on it to help, but this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
They were like, they were scary to ride. I didn't really like it. And then they're there 3 years later going, I still don't know how the heck we got here. I unfortunately think that it's like gambling. There's a little bit of luck in it. You don't know what's going to happen. In 2007, I worked with another guy, built an amazing brand. We created a great partnership. We got one of the biggest tech companies in the world to invest in us. And the company created software that held money in escrow between homeowners and contractors when somebody's remodeling your bathroom, right? And the money was held in this escrow. And we had this this is before iPhones and iPads. Like we used Flex as our development tool and had like these really cool sliders, and it was all web-based and it was super cool. And the recession hit.
Yeah.
And we went from literally overnight, we were everybody's darling, all these employees getting ready to launch. We were training 600 salespeople for one of our parts. 600 salespeople. We were training them on how to sell the product. And we just get a text and they're like, or not even a text back then. I think back then it was like a, what was it? The message on the BlackBerry.
Yeah.
They're pretty like, it's over, good night. I mean, and we sold the company. We raised 10 times more than we sold the company for. We literally sold the code of the company for 1/10 of the money that we had raised.
Really?
So you can imagine what the payout was for investors or for founders, right? Zero.
Yeah.
We got nothing.
Yeah.
And I still think that was probably the best idea I was ever involved in. So I do think it's about, it is about traction. It is about, if it's too hard, maybe it shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And I know that that's hard to say. And I know that there's, and Mark Zuckerberg would argue with me, on that point. But for the most part, for every person that sort of does that crazy success and they just pushed through, for the most part, if the market doesn't adopt it quickly, you got to start questioning and saying, okay, is this the right thing? Do I need to pivot? Do I need to change my strategy? Do that 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 times. And then if everybody's still like that baby is ugly, just agree that it's ugly and chuck it out the window, like I said before.
And how do you identify that point? I mean, the opportunity cost is huge, where it's like, at what point do you say, all right, I've done enough, like maybe we should stop? I mean, because it could be one decision that is the breaking point that makes it take off. But I mean, how do you identify that when it's like, look,
it's so hard.
It's
so hard. I mean, some of it has to be, I hate to say this because I told you before, I'm not a feelings kind of guy. I mean, some of it's gut, but I think it is data. I think you just have to look at it and say, you know what, we tried. And this didn't pay off the way that we thought. Maybe there's an opportunity. A great friend of mine here in town works for a big software company. She created the first social network. I mean, hands down, 1998, she created it. She raised $25 million in Silicon Valley and had 100 employees. And I mean, big name investors, all the biggest names were all a part of this company. And eventually one day she was just like, it's not working. There's no users. Like, it's just not there. It's just not going to happen.
Wow.
And shut it down. And I was in Silicon Valley with her about 6 or 7 years ago. We were sitting at Starbucks and this guy comes over and he's like, hey, are you so-and-so? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, I was one of your first investors. And she was like, oh, shoot. And she's like, she's like, right then I knew it. I was like, $2.5 million. I remember him putting the money in, right? And she's like, and he said, I just want to come over and shake your hand and just, he's like, you were so ahead of your time. Like you were 5 years before anybody else. And he's like, every time I'm at a barbecue and somebody's like, I was an early investor in Facebook. He's like, wait, I was doing that Facebook thing like way before you guys were, so I mean, that was a great idea. Social networking was a great idea. It was not a great idea in 1998.
Yeah.
Just didn't. Yeah. There wasn't an infrastructure. I don't think we had Wi-Fi. Like, it's like when was Wi-Fi? It was like 2001. To download
a song or something.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't even make sense. I mean, it looked more like Reddit than it looked like anything else because, I mean, people were like, can we upload images to this? She's like, what are you, freaking crazy? Where are you at, the Library of Congress? It's like, you can't upload an image to the internet, you dummy. So I think it is some of that, but it's also, I think, having that mentor group, those folks that are involved that maybe don't have a vested interest that are willing to be honest and say, okay, enough. I mean, there's
that mentorship. I mean, someone that has that perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people like to call those people coaches. I mean, if you think about it, if you played high school football, there was probably some day where you're like, yeah, I'm going to be in the NFL. And your coach was like, hey, bro, let me sit you down. Yeah. This is not going to happen. You need to go study because you're not good enough to do this. There was somebody that told you that at some point. It's hard to identify that for yourself. Yeah. But it's a lot easier for somebody from the outside to go, that perspective. Man, maybe this isn't working. Yeah. But that's hard. I mean, I did for a long time. I was a venture mentor over at ASU. And I bet you 80% of the companies that I said, let's reevaluate this. We're like, no, we don't want to reevaluate. We're just going to go with it. And they just didn't make it. Yep. Just didn't make it because they weren't willing to accept the truth. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to accept. The reality.
It is. I mean, as you mentioned, it's your baby. You spend so much time into it, and it's like it's tough to swallow that pill and saying, you know what, it didn't pan out the way we planned, and now.
But what did you learn from it? I know a couple of very, very wealthy investors. One of them told me one day, he said, "Oh, I don't invest in companies at all. I invest in people." I'm like, so you gave this guy 50 grand. He's like, oh, he'll lose it. That thing's done. I'm like, what'd you give him 50 grand for? And he said, because he's going to learn amazing lessons with that 50 grand. And as long as I understand I'm going to lose it, and keep in communication with him when it goes bad. And I'm the first one that sends him the text message the day it shuts down. And I'm like, hey, bro, it happens. It is what it is. Let me know what your next idea is. I got to check here. You know, because he's like, there is a pattern. You know, successful people that can grind and repeat, even when they do fail, they usually, it might not be the next one and it might not be the next one, but somewhere in there, they're going to figure it out.
Yep.
And those are the people you want to invest in. And I love to hear that from investors where they're like, yeah, the ideas, but I like these guys.
Yeah.
I like this gal. She's amazing. She's going to go places. She's super smart. She needs to learn some things. The best way to learn stuff, you know, you don't know fire's hot till you get burned.
Yeah.
So the best way to learn how, I mean, it's why for years I used to love to recruit people that worked like Amway or did some like MLM that they failed at. I used to love them because at one point they had this incredible energy.
Yeah.
And they did it. They got up and they did it for 4 hours and they tried it day after day after day. And eventually it was like, it just failed, you know, but they know how to go through the motions.
Yep.
And they knew that there was a point where you have to get off the train. And those are people I like because they have that ingrained in them as long as they're not totally destroyed from it. And most of the times they're not. They lost $500 or $1,000. It's like, but they have that. They understand the pattern of how it works.
Yeah, they've gone through the process, and that's the biggest thing is the learning, and that's why. I mean, even when it comes to running campaigns and stuff, I mean, we always try and have some type of testing budget, and it's like, hey, 30% of these are going to win, 70% are going to fail, but those 3 it's going to more than fund all the failures, and we're going to find little pieces of nuggets, and over the year, that's how we're going to see tons of growth. I mean, it's knowing that, hey, it might fail, but it's not so much, oh, that's horrible, it didn't work, but it's what do we learn from that? Because even if it didn't work, there's something that we're going to learn that we can apply to something else that will then drive that ROI.
I think it makes a good point too. I mean, I look at Phat scooters and we've struggled. You know, we last year, we probably walked away from $2 million in revenue that we just couldn't fulfill in time. The last 60 days, we've walked away from $500,000 in revenue that we just couldn't take the orders. We're just like, sorry, can't do it. You know, so I know the demand's there.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to grind at a totally different level because all I'm trying to solve, I'm not trying to solve a demand problem. I'm always trying to solve a supply problem. And that supply problem requires lots of cash, requires lots of people. It requires all sorts of things. Listen, maybe this is the best way to know if the startup's going to make it or not. One of my mentors once said to me, he said, never ask a business, how's business? Ask them, how's sales? Because if sales are great and everything in the business is falling apart, you can fix that. If the business is like, we have the greatest process in the world, is anybody buying it? No, but our process is incredible and you should see how cool our office is. It's like, you're done. If people want it, and that's why I think a lot of times, even things that I still get involved in to this day, it's like, I want to look for things where there's where people are lining up. Yeah. And Apple did it. They faked it for a long time. I mean, a lot of people don't remember this, but when like the first iPhone came out, I mean, they intentionally made less. They knew what the demand was and they intentionally made less so that there would be huge lines. You know, it's like that Soup Nazi episode of Seinfeld, right? I
love that
people
episode.
Get in line because people are in line.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, man, well, I'm in line. What are we here for? It's like I'm not sure. Anybody know what we're in line for? Yeah, there's some dude selling soup. Oh, yeah. So I heard about the soup guy. Of course. Yeah, this is the soup. It's like I told somebody the other day, I said, you know, when you think about an early stage company, at first, you know, it's like, you know, have you heard of this? And then there comes this stage where it's like, you know, oh, you haven't heard of this? Yeah. And then there comes this stage where it's like, wait, seriously, you haven't heard of this? You know, what stage are you in? I mean, if you're still in that stage of, have you heard of this? Then the grind is important, right? Yep. But if it starts to get to the point where people are like, oh yeah, I've heard of it, not interested. Yeah. That's when you go, well, what's wrong with me? Is it my marketing? Is it the product? What is it? But there is that day. I mean, we talk about it with Phat scooters. We have this golf scooter. First year we went to the PGA show, people would walk past and go, nobody will ever buy these. We're like, okay. Yeah. Second year they walk past, they're like, the most progressive courses will buy these. This year, everybody walked up to our booth and said, our strategy for single rider golf carts this year is. Wow, really? It was like a script. We knew that the tipping point had happened. And what did I do immediately thereafter? Hired a half a dozen golf people. We didn't do that beforehand. We were like, we have to figure out if this is a thing. Yeah. And then once we knew it was a thing, we were like, now we can deploy the resources to make sure that it works. Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I'm learning so much. I just love the process. You know, you've mentioned you're doing a TV show with, I mean,
having a pivot, that's huge. I mean, since COVID has happened, I mean, what is the next 3 months, 6 months look like for you guys?
Yeah. So for us, I mean, we really, when COVID happened, we knew that there would be a huge change. I mean, I went through, I lost the business in the last big recession.
Yeah.
So I got it. I knew that feeling. I knew that watching the news. You know, I remember
market.
where I was standing there. I literally remember the office. I remember where all the employees were, and I'm watching it, and everybody's working, and I'm just watching the TV and watching the TV and watching the TV. And I'm looking around going, okay, do I fire him today? Is it tomorrow? Do I give him to the end of the week?
Yeah.
How much cash do we have? You know, I mean, it was bad. So when it happened this time, we just decided to make a hard pivot, and we said, the events team had to go. I mean, what could you do? There's no events. It's over. So we took that money, and as I told you guys beforehand, we quadrupled our marketing spend. We just said, look, everybody says you gotta advertise in a downturn. Everybody says that in retrospect, right? It's like after the downturn, everybody's like, man, if we would have just marketed in the downturn. Yeah. So I'm like,
hindsight is 2020.
People smarter than me have said that for years.
Yeah.
So let's just bet. We bet, and it worked. And then, as I told you guys earlier, you know, it's like we decided at that moment, we were like, what are the opportunities that this just created? And the first opportunity that came to mind was there's no live sports. Hollywood's going to cancel everything. If Hollywood cancels production, that means there's a little bit in the editing queue, but that's going to run out real fast.
Yeah.
You know, their editing's about a month ahead. If the editing gets shut down, now all that footage is just going to sit there. So we just realized, I mean, we sat there probably on cocktail 6 and we were like, you know what? There's not going to be any new television shows. None. Yeah. You're going to see these weird, like, tune in for the 3 new episodes of Blackish, right? Because they didn't finish it. Yeah. And the 3rd episode's going to be a little bit like wonky, right? Because it's going to be all sort of piecemeal together. So we just started making phone calls. We got a team to come in and do a sizzle reel, and we just hired a broker. I mean, I'm a big fan of hiring experts. I just called around. I'm like, who is the guy in town that knows everybody at all the networks? And they're like, this Chad dude, he lives in Gilbert. Texted him 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, we need to have a phone call, right? Yeah. Called the executive producer, a lady I knew, I think it was at midnight. She's like, Derek? I'm like, something's happening. Yep. You know? And within weeks, we had 3 offers, you know, to do the show.
Oh, so, awesome.
And we were able to negotiate them against each other and create sort of an amazing sort of opportunity for ourselves to really control our destiny and create the TV show that we wanted to do, not the TV show that the network wanted to do. Yeah. So,
and is it around like Phat scooters or what's the concept?
Yeah, the main purpose of the show is it's you know, from a categorical perspective, it's a design, build, deliver show. Just like an Orange County Choppers or Diesel Brothers. You know, it's that sort of that cake boss meets Orange County Choppers. But interestingly, as we've started to book celebrities and guests into the show, and the director's been on site, he started to realize that there's a much cooler story. That, it's cool that we can, you know, have this celebrity or this celebrity. But he's like, when they were here about a month and a half ago shooting, we were in a 14,000 square foot building. They showed up today, we're in a 48,000 square foot building. Wow. And he's like, how do I make this story work? He's like, it's a totally different place. He's like, there's 15 new employees. He's like, what do I do with this? And I'm like, I think we're going to have to really explain in this story that here's the pre-COVID stuff that was shot. Here, COVID happened, things changed, but we continued to grow at this incredible trajectory through it. And here's what it is in the back end. So, you know, that's been exciting to see, you know, how that's all coming together. And we're going to shoot between now and September 26th. We're going to wrap on September 26th and try to do all 6 the first season episodes. But we're also, the other story that's really come about in this is what's going on here in Arizona. Yeah. And it's been really interesting to me that when we landed the show, we started hearing from local brands like Dixon Apparel. We started hearing from Rockford Fosgate. You know, I got calls from the guys at like State 48. You know, all of these guys that were local were like, hey man, this is a cool opportunity. Do you need anything? Yeah. And I'm like, well, what do you got? And they're like, you want some shirts? Yeah. You want a hat? Like, you want me to give you a couple grand? You know, they all sort of jumped in and were like, look, this is a cool way to profile what's going on here. This isn't going on in California. Yep. You know, this isn't going on someplace else. I mean, Nicola is right down the street from us.
Oh, I pass it every day on my way.
We're chatting with those guys right now. We're like, hey, maybe there's some sort of cool thing that we can do here. Yeah. Maybe there's something we can do for the show to highlight the fact that, listen, I don't care what anybody says. Arizona is the Silicon Valley of electric vehicles. Think about it for a minute. You got Atlas, you got Lucid, you got Nicola. What's the big one that's going in Casa Grande?
That's true.
Anybody who hasn't figured this out yet, I mean, there is no place within 40 miles of here, you can hit like 5 electric vehicle manufacturers.
I didn't even realize that.
You got Urbex out in the West Valley, who has some of the coolest battery technology out there. I mean, or East Valley. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here that nobody's really identified yet. And we want to point out the fact that if you're talking EV, if you're an EV investor, Arizona's where you got to look. Yeah. And the great thing about EV investments is they all have one thing in common. They have a B somewhere in the valuation, right? Because they're like 30 B. You guys watch Tesla stock? What's it, $300 billion now?
It's insane, right?
Thank you, Elon. I bought at 200. I bought at.
200.
So thank you, Elon, for everything that you've done for me. I owe you a cocktail. I will buy Grimes' new album. You can name your baby after my latitude, longitude coordinates. I don't care. Just do whatever you got to do, man. But there's something happening here, and I don't think we think about tech. We think about Silicon Valley. We think about software. I don't think anybody's really thinking about the fact that there's hardcore electric vehicle hardware manufacturing occurring right here in Arizona that potentially $800 billion industry by 2027.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think of Arizona in general, just as a business hub? I mean, it's more and more DoorDash. They just moved their headquarters here to Tempe Town Lake. I mean, there's more and more businesses moving here. I mean, so we, similar to what you guys are doing when COVID hit, a buddy and I got a kind of a business news segment going called Entrepreneurs, but, part of what has come up in a couple episodes is the fact that there are tons of people and tons of business moving here. And I mean, mentioned that it could, to me, I think it could be the next like Silicon Valley. I mean,
I think it could. I think the biggest challenge that we have is a lack of investors. All the investors, I'm not pigeonholing everybody, but for the most part, it's hard to raise money in Arizona. It's hard to raise money in Arizona because most people are real estate investors. That's where they made their fortune. So it's tricky. And where I have found success, though, is I used to do software companies. Now I do product companies. Product companies are a lot easier. When I can walk in and I can be like, here's what it is. I need to buy 1,000 of them and they cost $12 each. Somebody goes, so $12,000 and we get 1,000 of these? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, let me write you the check. Yeah. And then I've learned how to use debt. I used to always raise equity financing. I don't use equity anymore. I use debt financing. I use venture debt almost exclusively. Venture debt guys are the easiest guys in the world to raise money on if you have inventory or assets or machinery or anything like that. They'll give you pretty much anything you want. Now their interest rates are crazy. Usually they're like 2 points a month. They're expensive money. But if I need the money to grow, do I want to give up equity?
It's a cash flow.
If I have cash flow, I'm not trying to make a profit. You think I'm going to try to make a profit in the next? No, I'm not looking to make a profit. So finding those sources of capital that are different. Yeah. That's a way to grow because you don't have to give up equity. For the most part, like venture debt's not personally guaranteed. So if it does go bad, just like, oh, well, dude, hey, here's my keys, drop it in the mail and send it to them. If my venture debt guys are listening, turn off the radio. No, but it is just thinking about things differently, recognizing that there's different ways. And there's so many cool opportunities now for startups. Companies like Clearbank is an incredible opportunity. Most people don't know about Clearbank, but Clearbank is a lending platform that as long as you have online sales, they literally tap into the back end of your online sales. They look at it and they make you an offer. Really? And they're like, hey, look, we'll give you $300,000 and we'll take 20% of your sales for the next, 125 days in order to pay it back. Again, the interest rates might be more than they're definitely more than what you're going to pay for a car, but
it's cheaper than equity in the long run. I mean, it's
my last company sold in 2017. I was the founder of it. When it sold, I was below the check cutting range. There's a $200 limit that the attorneys wouldn't cut checks below. I was the founder. I was below the check cutting range. Yeah. Talk about dilution. I had 0.027%. I think it was 9 rounds of funding.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I had common shares. Everybody else had preferred shares. Preferred got first rights and they had liquidation. By the time it was done, dude, I couldn't have went to a decent dinner. So I try to preserve equity as long as I possibly can. And one of the ways that I've done that is with debt. And it's a totally different class of investors. There's lots of guys around town where I'm like, hey man, can I borrow $50,000? I'll pay you back in a year and I'll give you, 2% a month on your money. Yeah. They're like, okay. Those are retired folks that are like, hey, I got $50,000 in my checking account. No, they're taking a risk. They might as well make money on it, right? They're like, hey, if I can make, 12%, 15% interest on it, I'm happy to do that. So that's been a new thing for me. I've only done that in my last 4 or 5 companies, but I've seen the cap table has been a lot better. And the payout's been a lot better if you succeed.
That's that learning. I mean, going through the process. No, I love all of it. And as we kind of wrap up, I mean, would love to hear, I mean, you've been through so many different businesses. You have so much wisdom and knowledge. I mean,
I don't know about that.
I disagree.
I'm just old. I don't know about the wisdom and knowledge piece.
But for someone that's starting a business or kind of in that startup mode, I mean, what's the biggest piece of advice that you'd give anyone?
Yeah, I do think it's about making sure the idea has legs, testing the idea as much as you possibly can. We talked a little bit about how things have changed with Instagram and Twitter and this communication. But if you're building products, 3D printing is like the future.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try anything for next to nothing. I mean, you can come up with a couple of $100. You can try a product out. You can put it out there. You can launch a Kickstarter. You can do all of these things that I just didn't have the opportunity to do back in my days. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of the things that I would have done that I guarantee if I put them on Kickstarter and it would have raised like $200 in the first day. And I'd have been like, well, this one, I'm not quitting my job, right? I mean, you can test stuff now.
That's true.
You almost know if you're going to be a success or not. And that allows you as an entrepreneur to maybe not have to invest everything into this idea. But it's like, what's the 2 or 3? What's the guy here in town with the shaker? You know what I'm talking about? Makes this cocktail shaker. He's a design. He does all sorts of product design for everybody else. Came up with a couple ideas. He threw them on Kickstarter. Texted me one night. He's like, dude, did you see what happened? I'm like, no. And he sends me a link. It was live for like less than a day. He had $300,000 raised on this cocktail shaker.
Wow.
He's like, this is insane. I'm like, yeah, it is. And then I bought 4 of the cocktail shakers because I'm like, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But he also had other campaigns running at the same time that I don't think did.
I mean, going to opportunity costs, it might be something that's like, wow, I didn't realize how big of an idea this is. And now you shift where you're spending your time to focus more on this.
Exactly.
I mean, it
is what capitalism is all about, right? Money flows to those who have innovative, new and creative ideas. Again, you can push, and there are times to push, particularly if like if you just see it, right? You got that vision and you're like, I know this is going to be a success, but be honest with yourself, have other people's opinions. That's why so many companies never raise money. It's like 80% of startups never are able to get outside investment. And if you can't raise outside investment, that's probably a sign that it might not be such a great idea. Yeah. Now, John Zimmer, you excluded from Lyft, right? You didn't work with me, but you figured it out, bro. So, but I mean, that's important to know. Somebody needs to validate that idea. That's not you or your grandmother or your mother or your sister. Somebody's got to validate it and be able to say, you know what, this is pretty good. And you should I'm willing to put something behind this, either time or money, to help make it work. That's usually an indicator of success.
Yeah.
But again, you never know what success looks like too. Yeah. I had a company years ago that I consulted with that got a licensing opportunity. Another company is like, hey, we want to buy it and we want to license it. And he was just adamant. Absolutely not. I'm going to be the next billionaire.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like, take the money.
Take the money and then think of something new and use the funds to start something else.
Absolutely.
No, well, I appreciate the time. I mean, if anyone wants to reach out or find you guys at
don't reach out to me. No, don't try to buy nothing. We're not selling anything. Don't go away. I'm trying to do that liquid, that water thing. I like it. Do not go to phatscooters.com. Do not watch this Riding Phat television show on Crackle Plus that launches in January. Don't do it. Please save us the trouble.
Love it. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.